Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome to the Old Fashioned Radio Show for September 2021. I did intend for this show to be extremely serious with all that's happening in the world, but I think I'm going to change it up on the fly here to start with. I literally just saw a headline where it reminded me that The Rock is still considering, I think it said 2032, a 2032 presidential run. Now, all is right in the world when The Rock is considering a 2032 presidential run. At least he understands he's not quite ready to be president on the next real election, where real people will go into real polling places and real campaigns will take place and real votes will be counted. At least, maybe he's just afraid of going up against an FDR type incumbent like Joe Biden, but it seems to be that he realizes that he has more to learn. If he were to go into the presidency 3 years from now, The Rock, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Many would argue he has the background now to be able to be president. But at least I think he understands that, he's got to spend a few years in the Library of Congress just reading up, just professional wrestling tactics and how to, shoot off fake rounds in a fake machine gun for a movie set. That's not quite ready yet to be president. So The Rock's doing the right thing. He's giving himself time, and I think he'll be an excellent president in a long line of actors. See, if The Rock goes in, there'll be no difference between The Rock and all of them. Going, yes, through JFK, all of them. There's no difference between JFK and The Rock. Are you new here? If The Rock does make a run for president, there is one factor that works against him more than anything else. I have a highly sophisticated supercomputer here with all sorts of algorithms running. It's very similar to the Whopper computer as it presented itself in war games. One thing keeps coming back that works against The Rock from all of the millions of teraquads of information that's been put in about The Rock's chances into this computer. It has nothing to do with his past as a professional wrestler and making a total idiot, an asshole out of himself for years, with one eyebrow and all that stuff, probably over the right eye and all. That's been done. Jesse Ventura did it. As governor, Schwarzenegger, they broke that professional wrestler glass ceiling a long time ago. Just one little step up to president. It's not about his past. It's about hair. He has no fucking hair. Think about it. Don't roll your eyes. You tell me one president, think about it, that's been bald as a freaking porpoise's back. Think about it. And if everybody's thinking that voters won't vote for a bald guy, I'm not going there. I'm talking about the reality script that runs itself and weaves its way through this matrix. I'm talking about past trends. I'm not talking about voters. There's no actual vote anyway. Who would think that? It has nothing to do with voters. What presidential race has ever had anything to do with voters? What? How long have you been here? It has to do with looking at the reality script that comes, who knows where it comes from, something that I call the screen that weaves its way through reality. Now, you have certain hair themes going on, and it morphs subtly over time. Think about Donald Trump, what was going on there. This whole presentation as a caricature was mostly about the hair. But then you have Biden, you have a similar thing going on. It's not the Trump hair, but it's really kind of nasty, or who knows what's going on there. It's kind of like if you glued a bunch of Velcro to the bottom, the one part of the Velcro to the bottom of a Frisbee, and you flung the Frisbee during a State of the Union address and it just whapped him on the head, it would stick. There's something going on there. Like if you ever could run your hands through it, there'd be so much spray, it would actually, almost like a barbed wire, cut the bottom of your hands, unless you were a metal worker, like real calloused up. It would cut you, Joe. There's something going on with hair themes that trace back through presidents. Think about it. Clinton and Reagan. So The Rock, eventually the reality script that moves itself through this matrix, this world isn't very real, of course, or I'm removing the word very. It will subtly potentially put in bald presidents. And when that happened, you have like 200 years of bald guys as president. But it doesn't happen that abruptly. You're not going to go from Joe Biden hair to The Rock, Porpoise's back. So, and it works the other way too. You're not going to have probably David Hasselhoff in there right after Joe Biden. If the hair will work back towards a more natural curl, something you could actually enjoy running your fingers through, that will happen slowly over time. Potentially, there should be a woman president between Joe Biden and David Hasselhoff, if you understand the way I'm interpreting the reality script. Okay. On a more serious note, and that will evolve into a clown show, not by my doing, because the reality itself, all I have to do is just talk about it and it becomes a comedy segment. And I didn't just drop, on a more serious note, I didn't just drop their John McEnroe astrology. I'm using, what other word am I supposed to use? The word, I'm not dropping their star. I'm just on a serious note, like important, dire. I don't know. I need to look at synonyms so I don't keep dropping their astrology, right? But it's a different spelling. Okay. The once great boxer, Oscar De La Hoya, Oscar De La Hoya had a big comeback fight scheduled for September 11th, 2021. Oscar De La Hoya, it was a comeback fight for September 11th, 2021, but he just had to bow out. He has a new variant strain, and they're calling it breakthrough COVID, breakthrough C. That's what they're calling it, breakthrough C. And he's stressing, I've rented the movie. I'm fully V'd up and I still got it. And there's pictures from his hospital room and they're calling it. He was supposed to fight. Remember, he was supposed to fight September 11th. That's when the fight was to take place. But that fight is now canceled. He has breakthrough C. That's what they're calling it. Yep. And the first thing that came to my mind was Swing Out Sisters Break Out. Of course, the new strain, the Delta didn't have its own theme song. The Delta, what happened to the Beta and the Charlie? They came and went quick, like one-hit wonders, like Kajagoogoo. The Delta has staying power. You know, that's like a band like Pearl Jam that has 2 first-grade albums, then tries, once their Illuminati handlers drop them, then they try to be just as good. They put out shit like No Code and 10 albums after that all suck rocks. The Delta is like that. It has much more staying power, but now the Delta is threatened by the breakthrough. And Delta variant, you would have had staying power if you had a slogan, a logo, and a theme song. So I'm proposing that the breakthrough, see, they're calling it that, to scare the heck out of people. This one breaks through. Even if you've rented the movie once, Action Jackson, and then you rented the movie twice, Action Jackson, and you went in for an Action Jackson booster. That's like that second DVD that comes in a case that has all the extras and all the bloopers and all the shit that nobody ever watches on that second DVD. All the stuff Mark Hamill dropped the lightsaber 10 times and George Lucas filmed it. All that shit that's the booster DVD. So anyway, it's called Breakthrough, which I think it should be called Breakout. And just simply every time it's talked about in the news, be playing the Swing Out Sister. You don't know this? You know this song. I can't play it. They'll shut the video down. It's like, break out, da, 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 don't stop to ask. You've got to find your way. Break it. You know the song. Come on, man. So this could be on the news tomorrow. You watch, tune into ABC. David Muir. Well, he'll be off, I guess. He'll just He'll act normal, like he takes a Labor Day off and they'll have some nobody as anchor. That's what they do, and just trying to blend in. Normal, he'll be actually hanging upside down in a cave somewhere. David Muir, between some stalactites and stalagmites. Nobody knows the difference between stalactite and stalagmite to this day. He's hanging in a cave, but you just make it seem like, he's off barbecuing around with the family. He's not drinking blood or anything like that. He'll be back though on Tuesday. So you tuned into ABC News, dun, 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 and then he'll present the very serious nature of not just what happened to Oscar De La Hoya, but the breakthrough variant, and then immediately upon the words breakthrough, the ABC News will have to, by trademark, the way Pat Riley or whatever he is, as some greedy bastard, he trademarked three-peat. You can't say three. Oh my gosh, you're gonna! I said the word. Is Pat Riley's lawyers going to come see me because I can't even see it? I have to pay some sort of $4,000 royalty for saying three-peat. It'll be the same way with breakthrough. Per the legal maneuvering, even the news won't be allowed to even talk about it without the logo and the music. The Swing Out Sister will be like underneath the news presentation until David Muir moves on to something else, like, I don't know, the next natural disaster, the next thing that's going to get you. The news, all it is how many segments of things that are going to get you can you present in 30 minutes with commercials, where the commercials will be all drug commercials, where 45 seconds of a 1-minute commercial will be about all the side effects that are going to get you. Just in my whole list of If the World Were Real, those side effects could have been removed 40 years ago if the world were real. They're in there for a very nefarious reason. And if any first grade truther, I can hear you saying, "Oh, that's to shield from lawsuit." No, it's not, first grade truther. It's not to shield from lawsuit. Get a clue. So just to finish up that important story about Oscar De La Hoya, the date of when he was going to make the comeback, that it has nothing to do with anything. I mean, you'd have to be a complete out of your mind psycho truther, total asshole to actually try to make a relationship between what happened to Oscar De La Hoya, like a 75-year-old man coming back, trying to make a comeback, and the date. I mean, here we go again, you truthers. You see things, it's called, I never pronounce it right, apophenia? Yeah, for like 4 videos I'm going, aphophenia. Like it's like alpophinia, like it's dog food or something. Apophinia? Better than apophinia, which is close to a hairstyle, which I can't even say. The video be banned. But it means, apophinia is when anybody, but especially you truthers, you see connections that aren't there. That's your psychosis, you truther asshole nuts. You're all apophinied. There ain't no connection between the date of his comeback. No, not at all. But see, this isn't some giant Mandela effect, reality breakdown, buttons and levers. This one's pretty simple. There are some things that work simply in how these creeps do business. They said, Oscar, you're going to play a role for us. You're going to play a caricature, and you may never break character. You are going to play a role for us. You're going to start a bogus comeback. I'm a comeback. I'm 75 years old. Joe Louis was, did you see Coming to America? According to the guys in the barbershop, Joe Louis was 85 when he made his last fight. So at 75, you're going to make a comeback. But you're not going to have to fight. You're going to play a caricature. And you're not going to break caricature. That's what I like to say, caricature. Character. I don't like that. But see, you're not going to have to fight. You're going to play a role. And you're just going to lie in a bed in a hospital, say a few things to the press, and how does $10 million sound in your offshore bank account? Pretty good. I heard you've been last prize fight you had was a long time ago, and you don't got no George Foreman grills to fall back on, Oscar. You don't have your bank account ain't looking too good. You don't have no George Foreman grills. You don't even have a potato fryer. So you need this money. All you got to do is 2 days work. Just make sure you got a thick sweatshirt on so nobody sees you ain't training for nothing. I'm talking about break character, and immediately go back. Of course, I'm thinking of Django Unchained, the movie, and potentially Oscar will play. He'll be very similar in his reaction to the John Johnson character when Dr. Schultz came up with Django. He's like, "You come all the way from Texas, no appointment, no nothing." Just something I can't say. You came all the way, no appointment, no nothing. And so Oscar De La Hoya, having just seen the movie, did the same thing. He says, I don't have to train, no training, no nothing, no heavy bag work, no jogging, no nothing. Just lie in this bed here, say a few things, and you're going to pay me $10 million. Just make sure that I drop the word. What was it? What is the name of the new Action Jacksonation CD that's in the case? It's called the I'll never forget with the Swing Out Sister. That's Breakout. It'd be called Breakthrough. Breakthrough. And trust me, it'd be funny as crap if I could actually play the music right now. That's all I got to do. No appointment, no nothing. Just lie in this bed and just tell people that I had thoroughly rented the movie, and I still got it. That's all. Yeah, it's all you got to do. Let's get to it, Oscar. Come on, we'll get some other boxer. We don't need you. We can. Roberto Duran's out there somewhere. I hear him calling, but with Bob Sugars on the other line. Okay, to get a bit more serious, what other word am I going to use? So I just now I'm paranoid because I got an email from somebody that I've emailed back and forth many times. I thought we down low together. We're friends, and I'm now Matt. Now I'm skeptical of who you are because how could you know this, that, and the other thing? I get this. I'm not picking on you, the person I email back and forth. I get this all the time, and it drives me crazy. I'm not. You know these YouTube channels that you never see their face. You have no idea their name. If anybody's ever skeptical of this channel, I hope you never watch those channels. You know how hypocritical that would be if you watch those channels when everybody knows my name, not just at the Cheers bar. I've been at the same address here. Any electronic white pages or yellow pages you can find me in 2 seconds. My name is on the cover of my book. I'm emailed out to anybody that asks for the PDF. Matt McKinley. I mean, where are people getting this stuff? If this is some sort of Illuminati job that I'm here to mislead you for 10 years, and I guess, I keep showing up with Matt, that could be a studio, showing up with a sweatshirt. Everybody knows my name, Matt McKinley. I've been, any electronic white pages or yellow pages can confirm I've been here in this house for 20 years. Well, Matt, that can be faked. Fine. If you want to be skeptical, please listen to me. Never, ever watch another video where you don't know who the person really is or their name or you don't see their face. Do you realize how hypocritical that would be? Someone will think they're skeptical of what I'm saying, then go watch some Crater Earth video presented by some guy nobody's ever heard of, with some alias and some bizarre, coming through an IP address out of Pyongyang. A while ago, some genius even floated that I'm Joe Rogan. Where's my $100 million? Where's my $100 million? Well, Matt, it would be easy enough to fake Joe Rogan. You would go do your Joe Rogan experience in your expensive New York City studio. Hey, see, how does he know where the studio is? I don't know. I'm guessing it's either New York or LA. But see, because it has to be a good front here, and this name, Matt McKinley, has been at the same address for 20 years, they got to fly the Joe Rogan caricature. Matt, when you remember, you're Joe Rogan, but when you play Matt, you're playing a caricature, and you must never break caricature or character. We'll fly you down to this house outside of Philadelphia, and you'll make your presentations from there. And the main problem with it is my presentations actually have a degree of intelligence where it's the Joe Rogan character is a dumb ass. How do you reconcile the intelligence difference? Have you ever watched the Joe Rogan Experience? Read questions from a cue card? I do a little bit more here than that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about the completely insane and hypocritical and inconsistent reality itself. So I don't watch much news, but I hear things like, we'll just call it now, we have a new hobo code, the swing out sister variant break through. And we have, I go by some news trying to get to the weather, and Yuki Washington or CBS 3 or whatever, I think in Philadelphia is talking about, well, Philadelphia is doing this to combat and cases and more cases. It's like, what was that skit? About Mr. McDonald, it was about Ronald McDonald, or Mr. McDonald, how are you going to compete with this, that, and the other thing? This goes back a long way. I have no idea why I'm even saying this. How are you going to compete, Mr. McDonald? Ronald, toys. Lots and lots of toys. The news, how are you going to make the presentation that this is all to be believed exactly the way the authorities say it is? Cases. Lots and lots of cases. So I'm hearing this stuff that's kind of negative over the last few weeks. And then we go out and I go into my Wawa to get, fast food. They have the, subs and we call them hoagies here, stuff like that. And then, you see 40%, sometimes in some stores, it almost seems like 50% here, depending on where you are, face coverings. And you're like, okay, here it comes back again. Okay, here's where I'm going with this. All right. Now, I watched 2 sports that are left. I went to Penn State. I have a long allegiance to Penn State football. It's just, it's hard to understand if you go to any big school, if you went to USC football is going to be a big thing for most people. It just is part of the whole school experience. So it was so toxic, everything last year. The Big Ten wasn't going to play football, then they were, and I just watched none of it. All I watched, as I said, was NASCAR, and I still watch NASCAR because at the time last year, you don't notice that there's no fans. The atmosphere is certainly, it's not even nearly as toxic, okay, as these other events with, a golfing event with no fans. And the tennis was the worst. The bouncing of the ball inside of giant stadiums. There's like 50 people. It holds 50,000. The U.S. Open, the bouncing of the tennis ball. You hear every grunt, every sniffle from the play. It's horrible. So you can't watch anything. All right. So I hear that Penn State, the first game yesterday, is going to play Wisconsin. And I'm just, I'm terrified to tune into it because of the toxic environment that keeps presenting itself. And I don't look into it. I don't watch any news for the most part. But the point, guy, I couldn't understand what I saw. And it relates back to, I don't know how to talk about this. The inconsistency of reality itself is a reality breakdown. Let me just get to the point. I'm sorry for being so long-winded. It was at Madison, Wisconsin, Camp Randall Stadium, all these Big Ten. It's, I don't know what it holds, 50, 60, 70,000 people, completely full. Completely full with the student section packed together. I mean, what? I don't understand. Okay, I'm happy about that. Of course I'm happy about that. But I'm just like, it's so inconsistent with what... And don't say, if anybody's saying, Matt, well, the universities are going to do their own thing. Anybody new here, we have a one world system. And if you're a major system inside that system or a major spoke on the wheel, like a hospital system or a university or a group of scientists or those investigating this cure or that cure or a drug company, you ain't doing your own thing. You are taking your orders figuratively from the Illuminati window. It's not like the Big Ten's just going to decide to do their own thing. We've had enough of this C stuff. And they are absolutely, listen to me very carefully, marching 100% to the orders that they get from the one world system. And it happens without them actually getting the orders. It's like a downloader. I don't want to get into that for the purpose of the old-fashioned radio show. Not everybody's getting little cue cards. Very few people are in on it, yet somehow they all march to the same tune, which is, again, a reality breakdown, relates to some sort of human download we've talked about in the past, we'll talk about in the future. But so in other words, the Big Ten's not doing their own thing. Nobody's breaking away from what the deep state wants. No. If you are okay, I don't need to say it again. So I'm going, what the heck is going on here? It's so inconsistent, and yes, I'm happy about a bunch of fans jammed into a stadium, and it looks like real life again. And the game had crowd. But it was so inconsistent. Like the insanity of it bothered me more than, and I don't know how to say it. I almost would rather have them be consistent, because my biggest concern and the only thing that bothers me is how the people around us are so blind to the basic things that we see. So the first thing I think is, how do they reconcile this? How does my friend Tony, who went to Penn State with me, how does he reconcile seeing all the bad news on the news and then seeing just a packed stadium with kids just smashed up against each other and screaming and spit flying everywhere? And there was a few masks. There was I don't know, the mask presentation will always be there. But they showed, they panned the crowd, and it was packed with the student section. I mean, jam-packed in. Every breath each student took, the spittle was going into everybody else's mouth, screaming and yelling and spittle flying. And I'm fine with it. Good. It's the inconsistency that drives me crazy and why the people around us can't see it. So there'll be like one mask for every 50 kids. So if they pan all these kids, you see 10, 20 masks if they pan a lot of kids. But overall, the ratio is very low. It was very encouraging. But that's always, it's always Goldilocks, just enough masks. It's never going to be completely back to normal. But the inconsistency was driving me crazy. I thought, what does my stepfather think about this when he sees it? What does Tony, my friend, think? How doesn't he immediately go where we would go? How can the news presenting all of this bad news, Yet they're now packing a stadium. What is going on here? And it's not, if anybody's screaming at me saying, well, Matt, there's two standards. Those that have rented the movie, the Carl Weathers movie, Action Jacksonation, with Carl Weathers, those that have rented, no. Now, remember what happened to Oscar de la Hoya. Oscar de la Hoya, he's not coming out on his own. Of course, it's all part of the system. His presentation saying, I fully rented the movie, and I have a very serious break swing out sister case. Okay? So the inconsistency, I don't know how to reconcile it. It's beyond a mad world. It can't be understood. It just simply can't. We can only move forward and understand ourselves. It's insane. Okay, I paused for quite a while because I can't leave that section with such a big question mark at the end. And maybe, we'll look to your comments as to what exactly is going on here. But maybe people are a lot more real than we think. I'm starting to really have a problem with how quickly I go to NBC Organic Portal. And there's reasons why I'm not sure that's the best thing to do. Maybe we'll talk about that here later, maybe not. But it simply could be people have a breaking point. And if you go to Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, or the University of Michigan, a giant part of your college experience is game day. And they, who knows? They know human behavior better than the humans know. They know, and the predictive Whopper computer, the sentient world simulation, they know exactly what large groups, and per the law of large numbers, the larger the group, the more perfectly they can predict what that group will do. Maybe they just had to give this experience. Like, hey, we'd like to keep the Australian clamp on everybody in here. We'd like to keep the Australian bear trap on everybody here. But you know what? The Whopper here in the Sentient World simulation is saying 40% of these kids aren't going to come back to school across the board. I mean, LSU, University of Miami, Wisconsin, USC, all over the country. We have to do this. We have to give them, and we'll keep on the other side in the news. We'll keep ramping up the Oscar de la Hoya bad news. We'll keep the kettle boiling over here. Add some more hair of the dog. We'll keep that bubbling. But for now, maybe the Whopper will tell us when it's time. But maybe we'll pull the plug on it. But for now, we have to give them at least these college kids this college experience. Who knows if the Whopper computer, the Sentient World simulation knows that in these schools, even the University of Wisconsin, you're out of state, going to Wisconsin, Madison, you're out of state. I'm easily looking at $40,000 a year, $45,000, $50,000 a year. In state's probably $25,000. It's a state school. Some of these schools are $60,000 a year. So maybe who knows, the ticker tape spits out of the Whopper. And the guy he still is in charge of the Whopper, the same guy from Matthew Broderick's Ward Games. The same guy is in charge of it. The bald guy with the glasses comes around. Stop! It's a simulation! Remember, it's a simulation. It's the same guy who's still on the Whopper computer. He's like, it's telling us, I can't do that voice again. I'll lose my voice. We got to give these kids a little taste of college or they're going to go bye-bye. They ain't coming back. Who knows? The system certainly is going to gain by keeping kids in college. Millions of kids in college? That level of indoctrination ain't easy to come by. You can't get that level of indoctrination responding to like a classified ad in the back of a magazine or something. You got to keep millions and millions. You got to keep that university full, man. That level of indoctrination, which puts the brain directly on the frequency where you could say one would be most susceptible to download or whatever. So you got to keep these kids in school. That it could be that simple. I haven't thought about it forever. I'm not going to. I'll look to your comments. I'm probably missing something, of course, but this is probably one factor. You send kids to school. It's $40,000 a year or whatever on average, $45,000 a year, and you go 3 years with no sports, no game day. Who knows how many will just walk? Well, Matt, you're suggesting that by itself is keeping kids at college. There's certain elements that are part of the college experience of these big schools, and they have to give the kids a flavor of it, even if they shut these games down. and they say the swing out sister, the aunt V. We'll call it the opposite, not a variant. We'll call it the opposite. We'll go Aunt V. That means very aunt, my very aunt and uncle. Matt, soon you'll be speaking entirely in hobo code. Even only 10 of us will understand what you're saying. And think of anybody that stumbled upon it. It would seem, Pig Latin would seem far more legible than what you're presenting if you take this any further. Yeah, you're probably right. Every time I say you're probably right, I don't say it much. I think back to Tom Clancy movie Clear and Present Danger with Harrison Ford when he's talking to his daughter. Harrison Ford was in the second and third movies. Alec Baldwin was in the first movie, Hunt for Red October, all Jack Ryan. Alec Baldwin should have played in all three, but the second and third filmings were getting in the way of his time where he had to go beat his wife. That took up, or was his main priority was beating his wife. So he couldn't do the second and third Patriot games and the Hunt for he did Hunt for Red October, but couldn't do Clear and Present Danger. So the little girl says, Dad, Mom says she makes more money than the president. And then Harrison Ford's like, she's probably right. She's an eye doctor, whatever. But what he really should have said, he's at that point, he's substituting for James Earl Jones as assistant deputy director of intelligence. He was being honest with his daughter. He would have said, daughter, that's just what the president makes on paper. See, the president is a top actor for the one world. This is him talking to his daughter. For the one world Illuminati control system, the president is one of the top actors. It doesn't matter what the official salary is. Once you get to that level, you don't need money anymore. You simply board planes with no passport. You go anywhere you want with nobody stopping you. You order meals in restaurants and no bill ever shows up. And he should explain that to his daughter because he was assistant deputy director. He would have known better, but I guess that's a little bit hard to throw that on the kid. I think she was just in 5th grade. What if the kid actually heard that from her father, Harrison Ford, and turned that into an in-school presentation about how the Illuminati One World says? That wouldn't have gone over well, even in a D.C. private school. I don't think that would have gone over well for a 5th grader. She's standing up in front of the class with note cards. The president doesn't run anything. His class is looking on. What? Even into D.C. private school, they've heard their mothers and fathers talking in back rooms about this stuff, but they didn't think it was real. The president doesn't control anything. He's an actor playing a caricature, and he can never break caricature. And the teacher rushes with like a wooden hook, like a bad comedian would be pulled off stage. You get an A, just sit down and shut up. Okay, totally switching gears here into the reality breakdown, metaphysical stuff. The world isn't real, and this is some sort of matrix part of the presentation. For years I've talked about truth drops. Okay. Many of us in the truth. You're attributing that to yourself, Matt? No, not at all. Many of us in the truth community were the original phrase from Russian vids. Truth in movies, lies in the news. Now, for years I struggled with, well, what is the movie, the people that are making the movies, how much are they in on it? And what do they know? What those video game makers that did the Deus Ex video game that just happened to leave out the WTC in a 1999 video game release and then had some bogus excuse as to why they forgot the WTC and the Skyline. And if it was one or two things, there's hundreds of these examples at this point. And going back to the same old answer that you reach down into your toy box and the same old answer comes back. They're all in on it and all raised inside bloodline families. That just doesn't work. It wasn't working every time. It seemed like a 1st grade explanation to apply. Talk about trying to jam a square peg through a round hole all the time. So I do credit Vanessa VA for helping us go to the next level with her retrocausality language, which helped me bridge the gap in certain areas. Whether you agree with everything she presents or not, this was a major breakthrough in my understanding. And basically what it boils down to is a message can come through a form of art, whatever that form of art is, music, poetry, movies, etc. There's lots of different forms of art. And a frequency can come through or a message can come through that's actually, if you're tuned to it, or you're a certain type of individual or a certain type of incarnation, she calls it the retrocausality language. It's almost, she could say, the future communicating with us, your higher self communicating with those that have tuned themselves to hear it, God, source, whatever your religion may be. But the point of it, and the major breakthrough is, whoever puts the art out, in many cases, doesn't need to be aware of the message that even they themselves are sending. Now, we don't know. There's no point in taking any one bit of music or any one bit of art and saying, well, in this case, were they in on it? What did they really know? Or it doesn't matter, because I'm convinced that it comes through people that where they are in on it, and the movie was planned out a certain way, especially with predictive programming elements. But there are other things going on. And the point is, once you get the message or the interpretation for yourself, or you see the predictive nature of something, or something that's a message to you, it doesn't matter how the message got there. It probably wants us spending years figuring out. I'm gonna talk about lyrics. I just emailed back and forth with somebody who sent it to me. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, Can't Stop. So this isn't just about this general topic we've talked about many times. There's like a new twist on this, and so let me just jump into it, because I don't think I would be able to describe it without jumping into it, and then I'll try to sum it up on the back end. So he sends me Can't Stop, and the main part does seem like a truth drop, the main lyric, but it's surrounded by nonsense, and that's kind of the new theory that I want to put out. So here's the main chorus, if you will. I love that. Chorus, if you will, from Can't Stop by the Chili Peppers. The world I love, the tears can't stop, addicted to the shindig. That's all the nonsense. But the chorus, the world I love, the tears I drop, to be part of the wave, can't stop. Ever wonder if it's all for you? Ever wonder if it's all for you? Interesting. To be a part of the wave, can't stop. No, I'm not pushing. What is that thing? The waves coming in and all that stuff people talked about. I'm not. That's sitting here. Oh, let's just sit here till the wave of truth runs over everything. Then we don't have to figure it out for ourselves. But I'm sorry, I was straying. The wave can't stop. Ever wonder if it's all for you? So there's no doubt that is such an incredible that relates to solipsism, the whole reality put there for you and your spiritual development. And I'm sure it wants us to say, well, what, Anthony Kiedis and losers like that, what did he was in on it? He's a bloodline family. It doesn't matter. Okay. It doesn't matter. But the main part of this presentation, this segment I haven't mentioned yet. Sometimes when this happens, it seems like it could be a theme that the song or the art has to surround itself with nonsense. So if you look at this song, the song, Can't Stop, Addicted to, all this nonsense. Let's say, white heat is screaming in the jungle, complete the motion if you stumble. So I guess what it could potentially be happening is here, sometimes that if there is a profound lyric in the middle and it's surrounded by nonsense, is it a way the reality itself has to work through this type of art, that lyric then is even more profound. So maybe I wouldn't even be paying as much attention to the world I love, the tears I drop, to be part of the wave, can't stop, ever wonder if it's all for you. I don't know if I'd even be paying as much attention to that if it wasn't surrounded by nonsense. So this theory of mine will break down, but maybe you guys will come up with hundreds of more examples. I have another one that we've talked about recently, and it has to do with America, Tin Man. But Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. Now that is incredibly profound, of course. We know that from The Wizard of Oz, but the way it's presented, and it's beautifully presented in this form of art. Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. I mean, of course, it's a monster truth drop, but it's just an interpretation of the truth drop we all should be getting out of The Wizard of Oz anyway. But the point is, I looked into the lyrics once, and I did mention this a few videos back, but I'm going to do it again, saying, is there really a tropic of Sir Galahad? Because it goes on to say, and cause never was the reason for the evening of the tropic of Sir Galahad, like the Tropic of Capricorn, the Tropic of Cancer. And one genius I found online, they explained it away. I'll just do this again briefly. You may remember me talking about this a few videos back, that no, there's no Tropic of Sir Galahad. The rest of the whole lyrics, America, Tin Man, just nonsense, just gibberish. The guy, whoever wrote it, he came up with this profound, really incredible line, Oz never give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. Then what these writers do is they just put in nonsense on the different notes around it, and then they go back and fill in the nonsense with lyrics that make more sense, just so to get the idea of how it should be said, writing out their poetry or their prose set to the certain notes. But see, he never went back and changed it. He just left the nonsense. That's what the person explained. Sure, they just left the nonsense. And I thought maybe this is, for lack of better words, how reality does business in some cases. When something incredibly profound is surrounded intentionally by nonsense, it may bring more strength to the main line, if you see what I'm saying. And I don't know if I'm getting this out very well, but it might be that, well, this is so profound, that we're going to surround the whole song in nonsense. Or based on what I said a few minutes ago, the writer could be doing this without just being a tool of the reality itself, not having any idea, the writer potentially, of what is going on here, how the retrocausality language or the real truth is they're being used, or they're channeling it out in some cases. And maybe the decision, without the writer even being aware, the rest will just be nonsense because of the profound nature of the key lyric. I don't know if I'm getting this out appropriately, but again, this is the first time I've ever talked about this. See if there's a trend, in other words, when something so profound is it's surrounded by nonsense, almost like they surround it by nonsense because they want to throw everybody off the trail. So, that's all nonsense. The Tin Man, America, that's apophenia again. You're seeing connections where there aren't none. It's all nonsense, and you truthers camp onto it like it's some message from God. You freaks, check yourself into the room next to Sling Blade's room. You freaks. I'm not saying this very well, but you understand what I'm saying. See if that trend, if there's a line that's very profound, is the whole thing profound, or is it surrounded by nonsense? Because that's just the way the reality has to do business. I'll work on this presentation in the future for this part. It's tough, and I'm not going to re-record this section. I hope I was somewhat coherent. Okay, let's just look at the America lyrics. Let me just give you one more segment of this nonsense that people believe the whole thing is nonsense. And if you know the song, you'll recognize. I'm not really going to sing it, but America, Tin Man, believe in me. So I say I'm spinning round, 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 round. Smoke glass stained bright colors. Image going down, 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 down. Soap sud green like bubbles. Oh, he's dropping the emerald green. Maybe that's another one. Dropping the green. Soap sud green like bubbles. I mean, then it says it again. Oz never did give nothing to Tin Man. So it is truly surrounded by nonsense, and that's hiding the needle in the haystack, if you will. Nobody ever asked, but I'll just take a minute or two here and tell you where I got the idea for an old-fashioned radio show for the truth community. And it was watching Seabiscuit. And you remember that if you've seen Seabiscuit, it is really incredible movie. Absolutely pushes the New Deal in an unnatural fashion. Of course, there's no movie of that nature that's ever not going to push the main themes of this friendly system we all live in, but certain parts are truly amazing and beautifully well done. It's not Dances with Wolves, but you know what I mean. And you remember I forget the name of the actor, but he was the horse racing radio show, and this is Seabiscuit, supposed to be during or just following the Depression. This is Tick-Tock McLaughlin reporting live from Clocker's Corner. And he would do the whole show, and there was a young girl that helped him. What are you doing out here, miss, braving the cold wind and rain? And she's like, we're here to see a match race. So I was watching it once and I thought, what if we did that for breaking down reality and truth stuff and 7-Eleven job application stuff and the fraud of the reality? I said, this guy's doing this whole show. This is TikTok McLaughlin reporting live. The whole show on just horses running around a track. He can do this show just horses running around a track. I mean, where's the material coming from? This whole reality system is giving us endless things to talk about in terms of a reality that's completely breaking down in front of our eyes. This is endless material. We could do the old-fashioned radio show as every single video forever, as long as I don't just keep it too stupid. It probably would be doable, and just not spend too much time on the Rock's bald head and stupid stuff like that. I try to get a little stupider here with these radio shows because we're talking about a lot of serious stuff. That's serious shit. So it's a snapback rubber band reaction to get real stupid in the radio show. But that's where it came from. I was really literally watching this guy going, imagine if somebody did that for all the shit that we talk about. And I don't present it the way he does with I don't have fake wingtip shoes. I'm going to say, sir, come over, bang the shoes and what he did. But anyway, that's where the idea came from. And the New Deal, FDR New Deal presentation in Seabiscuit is enough to turn you off if you understand reality. But I'll watch that movie once a year. It's too good in too many other places, even the horses themselves and incredible photography. But the way they present the New Deal, it's so wonderful to all the Americans watching what FDR did. And, the government was so good. The government was good. And this wonderfully calming voice comes on. And I can't imitate this voice. That voice is unique. He says, and in a time when Americans had nothing, time when most Americans were broken, finally, someone cared. And these segments with that voiceover during Seabiscuit that talk about the New Deal projects, and finally people had some pride about them because they're able to build endless government projects. Nobody asked, in the middle of this, if anything were real, somebody would have said, in the middle of this complete financial breakdown, where's the money coming from to build something like the Hoover Dam and hundreds of other major projects that came out of this thing called FDR's New Deal? Where's the money coming from, and how would they have reacted when they find the money is made up? Well, this is a fake crisis. It's real, but it was all cooked up. I mean, it was just, they crashed it down because they wanted to crash it down because that was the next phase. You bring in the New Deal, you bring in this, you bring in that. They didn't need to have any money to build the Hoover Dam, just like it is now. It was back then. They could make up whatever they wanted. Well, by that rationale, they could make up whatever they needed to pull all the Americans that were hurting and starving to death and homeless and without a job, to pull them up out of their squalor, and horrific situation. The money existed for that. Yes, it did. Of course it existed for that. But the system here, you didn't actually think it was actually about trying to help people, did you? Come on now. I have new hobo codes to present, even more hobo codes to present. When channels constantly make fun of these people which deserve to be made fun of, like channels like Tell Me What You Love or UAP, and they make fun of these people that come on stage and pretend that they're physicists and pretend that they know what is above 100,000 feet. There's basically three culprits that are always coming forth. You have Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a fan favorite. You have in the UK, that's for North America. Then for it's still North America, but it's more of an Asian influence. You have Michio Kaku, right? He's a friendly guy, yelling at that poor woman about what she believes about the 7-Eleven job application. You're one of these people. He's a real friend. Michio, if you're listening, I'd love to debate you, Michio. I would love I'll book us into a room, you and me, Michio, and we'll film it. Please, Michio, or Neil deGrasse. Oh, Brian. The third one is representing the Europeans, Brian Cox. Now, we have new hobo codes, because who knows if we'll even be able to talk about them by with using their real Christian and surnames going forward. So if you want to refer to them in general, and if you're just talking about the theories that they all have in general, they all share the same theories of what's up there, what Carl Sagan said billions of years away, what the type of hairspray and Aquanet that's going up to the ISS on the Dragon capsule. They all share that. So why talk about each one individually? If you want to talk about them in general, I propose the hobo code, the Cerberus physicist. It's a three-headed monster that's pushing the same lie. So why shouldn't maybe they should consider joining together surgically? Maybe, I don't know, that would be interesting. If you don't like the Cerberus physicist, it's just to represent them in general. There are hobo codes for each one. There's Neil of the Gas Bison. You could Neil. We might not be able to say his name directly going forward on this. How do you know? Neil of the Gas Bison, like it's like a bison. It's not. There's no Y. Okay, just BI. Then you have Brian Cox that's just too easy. Brian Cock. That's just, come on. What else are you going to do? But then for the other, you have I would change it to Mitch. Okay, and you say it together. Mitch Pikachu. Mitch Pikachu. And Mitch, if you're listening, please can we have a debate on anything? What you keep buried at the bottom of your sock drawer, anything, please. In public, and we'll book us into a room. Anything you want, Mitch. I don't know why. Neil deGrasse, I don't know. Of course he's just a fraudulent character. But how do you get upset at him? Did you get upset at the Burl Ives character, the snowman at the beginning of Rudolph? I mean, he's pushing silver and gold. I mean, how sick is that? I mean, it's a mockery when certain Bible verses said you will not adorn a tree in silver and gold. He's mocking. You can't get upset at that snowman character. That's just Neil deGrasse. I'd sooner sit down and have a chimichanga with him and a beer than to get really upset at him. And Brian Cox, oh, come on. How do you, if some ant was protesting outside my house, am I going to get upset? I mean, but there's something about Mitch. There's something, he's a different type of strange incarnation that I don't like. He doesn't sit right with me. I don't think if he walked through a flower garden, would it be the same as Hillary Clinton? Every single rose smelling of a different name, completely turning to ice, cracking off at the stem, just wilting away. I don't think so. But, there's something about him. Boy, Mitch, please debate me if you're listening. Please. And for anybody that doesn't know exactly who I'm talking about, the third physicist of the Cerberus physicist, it's Michio Brian Kaku. It's you know the guy. He's been quiet recently. Where's Michio Brian Kaku been? I don't know, but I miss his obnoxious countenance. I really do. We have a movie sponsor. The first one ever for the Old Fashioned Radio Show. It's the old 1980s Tom Cruise movie Cocktail. Yeah, it's not a sponsorship that would make people want to go out and rent the movie or buy the DVD. Is there even a Blu-ray for Cocktail? With Coughlin's Laws. Remember Coughlin's Laws, the old wise creepy bartender? They say the brain is gone, the liquor we still got, the luck is gone. The night is gone, the luck is gone, the brain is shot, but the liquor we still got. Coughlin's Laws. But the sponsorship for the Old Fashioned Radio Show comes in the jacked up shorts that Tom Cruise was wearing during the free throw competition. If you've seen Cocktail, and he says, "That's $20 you owe me." He's doing the free throws. He says, "How many can he make in a row?" Tom Cruise is wearing some gray shorts that are hiked up so high that they're actually trying to bring them back into style. They're for sale. If you write our P.O. box, they're for sale for $19.95. The actual shorts, it's a representation. Tom Cruise didn't get into each pair, but the actual representation of the same gray shorts he wore in Cocktail when he won the free throw competition just before they decided to go to Jamaica. We have a competition running during the Old Fashioned Radio Show here. A lot of stuff we're offering. People liked it from a few videos back. So it's actually a competition where you write in. It's like an essay competition. You know, the point, if, just like I said a few videos back, if Joe Biden came out into the Rose Garden and during the speech removed his own head and held it and caressed it and stroked the brittle hairspray, here's the competition. Here's what the essay competition is. What do you we almost expect something like that from Joe Biden. What more do you expect out of Joe Biden that would actually be more shocking and more surprising than him removing his own head in the middle of a press conference? That's the type of creativity we're looking for here, if you want to write my P.O. box. I don't have a P.O. box. I got to put disclaimers in now. I kid you not, somebody either emailed me or put a comment. It probably was a comment, but they were serious. They were actually asking if Marco Rubio Bubble Parties of Central and South Florida was a real sponsor of this program. You have to disclaimer on everything. No, it was a joke. It was a joke. As far as I know, maybe he does have a series of retail outlets, Marco Rubio Bubble Parties of Central and South Florida. What happens under the bubbles stays under the bubbles. I don't know, but they're not a sponsor, of this program. I don't even know if I would accept that sort of sponsorship. What happens under the bubble stays under the bubbles. That's sick, man. But this is not. I didn't just make up there's a whole reputation, Marco Rubio in his earlier party days, of him going to these bubble parties. I didn't just make that up. This was the tag that was associated with him. And the person that was questioning whether it was a real sponsor or not, I think it was that. I don't think it was Joe Biden inbred deliverance banjos for sale for a limited period of time. That they're no longer with us. I've said too many mean things about Joe Biden. Joe Biden, long-term sponsor in inbred deliverance banjos. The person you saw in the movie is actually the person that's president of the United States today. They're no longer a sponsor. There's only so many times you can cut up Joe Biden before they pull their sponsorship, and that's what I fell victim to a short time ago. All right, let's talk about a very strange and interesting metaphysical phenomenon. I don't know how to even jump into this. I would relate it to the Mandela effect, but that triggers some people, so let's keep that out of it. The face coverings and the presentation of the masks and the face coverings during the Spanish flu of 1918. There have been several people, specifically, just say Dave in the Land Down Under, who's done a certain amount of research, but other people have come to me and said, Matt, you've researched the Spanish flu, which I did hardcore in, say, April of 2020, March or April of 2020. Do you remember all these pictures of people during that time, 1918, 1919, whatever, in masks? You have that now famous picture of the entire baseball game in masks. And I said, no, I don't. When I initially did my research, I didn't see any pictures of anybody in masks. And my first gut reaction, of course, is they're all fake. I mean, if you go into there was a, by the way, I've said this many times, the Spanish flu of 1918 killed my great grandfather. Heard a variety of different stories from different people, including my grandfather, several times as to how he ended up basically as an orphan in Girard College in Philadelphia. So I'm not connected to it, but I this is firsthand accounts. So it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, that was a hoax." I mean, no, it wasn't. Okay, we don't know exactly what happened with that. There's a lot of different theories, and it's not the purpose to get into that now. But it did kill whatever it was. Killed my great grandfather. So these images. The point is, let's just stick to the point here. The images of all these masks popping up for pictures taken in 1918, 1919, around the time. To me, they're faked. I don't believe there would be just the way that people were back then. A whole group of people thousands would go to a baseball game all masked. I don't buy it. The picture that we've looked at a few times that's made its way virally around many times is the person is told he cannot board a trolley because he doesn't have a mask. Bull crap. in 1918, 1919. But some of the, Dave, his research, and he's come back to me, and it could be more than just faked pictures going on. These images of the masks in 1918, 1919 are almost, I know it sounds crazy, and if you're not Mandela affected, you're going to roll your eyes, but they almost seem to be inserting themselves into reality itself. So, and he came back to me on this, and I have seen this sort of thing happen before, but let me just tell you what he said. He said, what was it? My video on Free Voice about the lack of videos for the 7-Eleven job application date, when there should be 250 videos and there should be over 400, potentially 400 still images of something approaching south. Okay, so there was one image where I showed during that presentation where, I don't know, you've seen all these types of pictures. There's thousands of people walking out of the city or walking away from the ground zero or walking across the Brooklyn Bridge. And he came to me about a week ago, I guess, or a little bit less, and said, check it out. They put the mask presentation right here or relating the two events. How we say they were working hard for some reason to relate the 7-Eleven event with what's happening now, to combine them in some way, like I've talked about in the Sade video, the Spike Lee thing, even if he has to remove the footage, which is all ridiculous. It's all the same, the setup, it's all set up. The script was laid down on what Spike Lee is presenting in his documentary and how certain things need to be removed from part 4. That script was laid down a long time ago, but it's still an effort to link the two events. So they gain, who knows, they need to tap into the power of the one event to feed it into the power of the next event. And Dave, he did point out a mask or two in the old 7-Eleven picture. And if anybody, I can hear anybody objecting, saying, well, there's smoke and rubble, and of course people are going to, but nobody had access to these. You just pull out your mask. People just had it in their back pocket. If they're a construction worker, fine. But they weren't, even CVS, they didn't sell these things. You had to go to a hardware store to get, or a medical supply store. Nobody had these masks just available. They existed, so fine, there's going to be some pictures of some of them on the 7-Eleven date. But Dave comes back to me and he's like, I looked at the picture again, and you see these people in masks here, here, and here? He's like, they weren't there the last time that I looked at this picture. Yes, like the picture itself changed. And am I going to roll my eyes and poo-poo that? I have seen stuff like that before. It's related to the Mandela effect. I don't know exactly what's going on, but generally I believe him that he has a level of detail. He looked at it closely the first time. Then he came back to me and said, there's masks here, here, and here. I would have caught that. So is that as weird as that sounds, is that possibly happening? In my opinion, absolutely it's happening, because we've seen things like that too many times. Now I can hear what a lot of people are saying. They're saying, Matt, it doesn't have to be a metaphysical reality breakdown. They take the image and then they simply Photoshop in some more masks and do it a few times over time, and then you go out to Google Images and there's your image. It's there. But no, it's not. There's no way. There's not. It can't be that, because it's too easy to expose it. For example, many people in Truth Pursuit we have tens of thousands of images saved. If the whole truth community, 1 million images saved from different videos we did, and this and that, and if they were going back and putting additional masks into old 7-Eleven job application pictures of groups fleeing the city or groups trying to get out of the city, walking across the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever it is, to somehow normalization of the mask, habitualization of the mask, linking the two events, whatever it may be, they just would never, I could go back and find the old image and be like, look, here's my image, and it doesn't have the masks. It just wouldn't work. It's the same. I think it's a flawed argument when people say the same thing, like they're going back into old movies and putting in like I can't say it. I'm going to say them tales. They're going back to old movies. You know, the line in the sky. You know, they're putting in them tales into old movies, and then, you know, when you see they're normalizing, habituating to it, that doesn't work for me, because, you know, they put that into even a John Wayne movie from the 60s or a Dustin Hoffman movie from the late 60s or whatever. Somebody be like, I have my old VCR tape that I got in like, you could say almost in Betamax or 1982. And it doesn't show. It would be like, okay, so they obviously put it in. There'd be too many people with old tapes, or, you know, in this case, old images. It wouldn't match up. So the Mandela affected people aren't rolling their eyes. They've seen reality change in front of their eyes, and all of past history reflects the new reality for them. You know, so what would be the difference here if a certain picture exists in a certain way that Dave didn't notice a week ago? Then we've seen this done before. In a sense, even if you're not Mandela affected, that go back and look at your old image now that you printed out and you put it in a drawer somewhere. I bet there's the 3 people up front are wearing a mask that they weren't before. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, we've seen these sorts of things. It's worth talking about. It's worth keeping on the table. And again, if you're Mandela affected, you've seen this sort of thing hundreds of times. So this is nothing even strange to you. And just to close, was watching UAP channel recently, and I noticed it myself. Maybe it was just in 1 or 2 big videos from these shill channels, you know, that have millions of subscribers that push the same thing, like after school and stuff like that. But he was talking about how there's this push now. Where did this come from? That rockets have to be launched to the east for, you know, curvature or motion of the earth or whatever it may be. And he's talking about it, and I'm going, yeah, I noticed a few videos pushing that too, and it led me back to the absurdity they pushed about 3 years ago about the free falling. You know, these people giving their space masterclass, talking about, what happens is you go up and we simply get the object or the ISS or the spaceship or whatever it be to get into a state where it's constantly free falling around the Earth. And I covered that when they were pushing that maybe about 3 years ago. The whole concept is completely absurd. If that was the case, Jeffy Boy and his Blue Origin water heater, they wouldn't have gone up and floated around. I mean, it's ridiculous. So once you get to 17,500 miles, you're just constantly free falling around. There's so many problems with that. I'm not prepared to talk about it, but I remember mentioning it in the video 3 years ago. Now it's rockets have to be launched towards the east. But the point is not either one of those ridiculous presentations. The point is just noticing how reality itself has to do business. To hold its power, or to hold its spell, or to hold its mind control, or to keep everybody tuned down the frequency. There's something to this that every once in a while, maybe if their power wanes a little, or wanes a little, I guess it would be, it has to introduce a new absurdity. And it does this with space. So you had 3 years again, the free falling around the Earth. Where'd they come up with this? Why did they need it? It's almost like the way they do business with their magic, things I don't understand. That if you introduce a new absurdity and nobody catches on, other than the same old group like us catching on to the same stuff, it's just the same old group, then we have the power to move forward. Now it's rockets launched to the east. The point is, does anybody that's listening to this, is there any doubt in your mind that a year or two from now they will introduce some other absurdity related to space? I mean, a complete absurdity that should break down the whole thing, but you know, my Tony and Aunt Ginny, they just never see it, and they think I'm crazy for questioning it. One is coming to my mind right now, It was the remember 4 years ago or so. It was the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere. the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere. They introduced that. It's trace atmosphere or something along those lines. So to me, the trend would be, okay, introduce that absurdity. If people buy it, it supports their, quote, magic, for lack of better words, on the back end. There's something about that. So the point is, if you tap into your inner knowing or your inner tuning forth, is there any doubt in your mind there's a new absurdity regarding space coming in a year or 2 or whatever? It's something just totally bizarre, like the ISS is free falling around the Earth, or or the need to launch to the east, and I can see you all nodding your head that of course a new absurdity will come. And let's just not latch on to the new absurdity. Let's take a step back, go up to 100,000 feet and look down. Why is the so-and-so leaks or releases of absurdities or mistakes on purpose? It all seems to be the way they have to do business. And again, for lack of better words, to keep whatever life is left in their magic to present this so people buy it. Without the absurdity presentation, it would completely crumble. There's a need for it. And the old, first grade truth reaction was always, Matt, they just are out to mock. That is so absurd. They're just mocking. Oh, they're just mocking. Yeah. And then they're in their eyes wide shut parties. They just laugh about it. Like Fire Marshal Bill. That doesn't sound like Ray Liotta. What Ray Liotta and Goodfellas? It's just mockery. Oh, sure. Yeah. That is such first grade truth that little bit of that still exists. I think we've gotten a lot of people away from that to think a little bit bigger than that. But that was all a big segment of the truth community could come up with for years. It's just mockery. No, it probably holds their entire black magical presentation together. Thanks for listening. I will be back on YouTube soon. Rob's back, so definitely free voice for next weekend. Thanks, guys.